Ksante's banned, you play Renekton. Renekton's banned, you play Gnar. Okay, that's all you're playing.
Yeah, and it's even more interesting because over the 5 games that they've played, Licorice has 5 different champions and Sniper has 4. So that's a lot of different stuff being played up here in the top side. But let's go ahead and get into the draft, as we do have Kalista, Yone, and Sejuani banned out by LYON. Over on the other side, 100 Thieves taking out the Rumble, the Vi, and the Yorick. So paying some respect towards one of those less common picks that has showed up more recently lately. LYON's going to lock in Varus first and foremost. I am absolutely totally unsurprised by this lock-in. Very standard stuff. 100 Thieves happy to snap up the Ezreal and the Jayce.
Yep, absolutely. Yorick actually got banned yesterday as well, so it's only been played so far in LTA North by Whippo, but it is getting some bans, so clearly it must be coming out in scrims more and more. I actually think it's quite strong right now. The nerfs that came through were mostly for jungle in this last patch. It's actually still pretty strong in top lane, so I definitely think situationally it can be powerful, and especially if you're going Jayce, that's a matchup that Whippo actually used it into, and it is a matchup that I think is actually quite good for Yorick.
It's also such a different champion compared to a lot of what you fight, just because it's based around pets and the weird cage that has the incremental health bar instead of a health value. It's just something that can easily catch you off guard if you're not prepared for it. So I respect the ban. As LYON going to lock in the Zhao and the Azir for themselves. Everything on their side of the draft feels very stock standard so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Quid going to be locking in the Taliyah. Of course, there's a slight possibility that it could go towards jungle, but I am not expecting that. Would be another new pick for Quid. This split, he has 4 different unique champions. The only one that he's actually repeated is the Sylas, so the Taliyah would be pretty cool to be coming out. If I'm thinking this is Taliyah mid, then I'm thinking about banning some of these, top jungle pairings, things like the Vi that do have that kind of point-and-click lockdown, really do make the Taliyah succeed very easily.
Yep. Luckily for LYON, the Vi already banned out in that first half by 100 Thieves, so they won't have to deal with that deadly combo. But looks like 100 Thieves are going to look towards that top side. They know they've already got the Jayce, so they're going to get rid of some of the options that they think Licorice would like to play into it. The Scion going to be the first one of those, as LYON will ban away the Alistar. They do not want to have that one paired up with this Ezreal. We know a lot of the times when you lock in Ezreal, one of the most comfortable things that supports want to do, pick something that can be an early effective roamer, make plays elsewhere, let Ezreal just hang out and farm with a Mystic Shot safely. They don't want to be dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Leona, another pairing that, can be really powerful with the Taliyah, point and click CC, whether it comes from the jungle or down in that bot lane, obviously very powerful. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Leona getting banned away, but we'll see where they do want to go. Mostly just all top lane bans, though, from 100 Thieves. You obviously touched on the Yorick, on the Scion. It is also going to be the Ambessa ban. The Rumble was banned out earlier, so 4 to 5 of those bans pointed towards Licorice. Does still have a number of champions that he has played this split that are still up and available, but we'll see where he wants to go.
I'm not going to comment.
Pantheon, I think, is pretty likely. Pantheon, because Pantheon is still, that potential flex. Nafiri is another option when you are pairing it with that AP mid laner. So it is going to be Nafiri here in the jungle for River. I do still think they do need some sort of point and click CC or hard engage, or they're going to have to rely on their opponents engaging into them and then just try to play that disengage style. But it is very difficult to play that style without any sort of engage, because if the early game goes bad, then you're kind of just cooked.
I mean, there's really, really limited options for any kind of CC or lockdown at all on this team so far. It's really just, can Taliyah hit a shove, but without any setup, that just becomes degrees more difficult. Yeah. Back over on LYON's side, though, they're going to lock in some strong CC in the support role there with the Nautilus, and the top laner to go into the Jayce will be the Ksante.
Yep, so it is going to be Ksante. That is the 6th pick in 6 games for Licorice, so he is maintaining that new champion every game status. Rell making a lot of sense there. Both Rell and Rakan, I think, would have been absolutely fine, but you do need some sort of hard engage, some sort of setup to be able to start off the fights, and I think Rell can really fit that bill. It's also something that people like quite a bit into Nautilus, because there is that interaction with your Shattering Strike. You can break the Nautilus shields. There is that potential advantage, in that matchup down on the bottom side, but definitely not expecting Rell Ezreal to be really scrapping too heavily in the 2v2. Varus Nautilus, I do think, should get the push, should have the priority there, and it's going to be more about, picking that Rell for the team fight.
And I feel like Licorice will probably have some pretty comfortable itemization this game, since you're going up against an AD top laner and this assassin-style AD jungler. Ksante loves being able to just slam one resistance for the first couple of big items, and this is a great game to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think, in these kind of games, a lot of times you can just kind of fully stack armor and then buy a Jack Show or whatever to give you a little bit of MR later on, but that's also going to amp all your resistance.
Super weak.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting. I mean, Eyla, talking to him, he was saying he thinks that the bottom 4 teams are actually a lot stronger this split than they have been, in the past. And so it's interesting because a lot of teams are talking about, these teams from the bottom 4 are performing in scrims, but none of them have gotten a single win still yet on stage against that projected top 4, which does make that top 4, bottom 4 narrative kind of very easy to talk about, right?
Yeah.
If you weren't around at the start of the split, when we did our power rankings, every single person on the broadcast who did their power rankings had the same 4 teams in the top 4 and the same 4 teams in the bottom 4. The order was different, but that is kind of where that discussion has come from. And since LYON was able to get their 3 wins against those other projected bottom 4 teams, they're then looked at as, okay, well, you're the team that is most likely to be able to punch up and take a game off of one of these top 4 teams.
Also, very important, that is the hot dog skin. Something happened between the last time they enabled
it's allowed now.
Yes,
you're right.
The hot dog is now allowed to be played in the LTA. This is great progress for Nafiri enjoyers everywhere.
And 0, the record, by the way, top 4 versus bottom 4 so far.
That's quite
That's pretty good for the top 4.
It's a strong argument for the line being drawn in the standings where it was. But we are going to see both of our junglers starting on the top side of the map.
That skin is so troll, man. It's one of those skins that's like so stupid that it crosses over and becomes amazing.
It becomes cool again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I also
it's like the Iron versus Challenger thing, there's the bell curve, and then the Iron and the Challenger player have the same mindset.
I like the fact that it has the green chroma too. That just looks like a toxic waste hot dog. It's not the one that we're getting this game, but it's a fun skin. As we take a look at where everything's kind of shaking out here early on in the lanes, FBI and Eyla with that initial push down there in the bottom lane, so going to be happy to not be constantly under the pressure from the Varus, at least for this first shove. Meanwhile, back over in mid, this is one that I'm really interested in seeing. The desk, the analysts, I still call it the desk even after all this time. The lounge was talking about how, this is part 2 of Saint's big challenge week. Yesterday, he was not able to rise to the occasion against Quad. He actually got solo killed. Did not seem like he was really completely prepared for that Cassiopeia matchup that he had to play into the FlyQuest mid laner. So I'm curious how well he'll be able to bounce back here today against Quid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he got player of the week in week 1. He was playing incredibly well, but he is playing against some monstrous mid laners this week. It is a super hard set of games here in Super Week for Saint. You talked about it. He had Quad, now he has Quid, then he has Loki on Monday as well. Does not get much harder than that in the LTA here. So Saint definitely has an opportunity to really kind of build a name for himself and really, kind of catapult himself up into that upper echelon of mid laners. Last week he was amazing. No one's going to take that away from him. But if you do it against the best, that's where you really start getting that respect and you start getting that credit for being one of the best yourself.
That's when nobody can deny it. That's when it's just a matter of fact, as River and Oddie are going to find one another here in the river. But now it's Eyla jumping in immediately as 100 Thieves are ready to go in for the 3v3. Lyonz down to below half HP, but FBI and Eyla the same way. First blood over to Oddie and LYON are on the board. River's next to drop, and it's a 2-for-0. LYON absolutely smashing this 3v3.
Wow, I actually thought that was going to maybe go the other way after the initial hook miss from Lyonz, but they're able to just scrap it out here. Oddie and Hena got so much work done in this initial play, and FBI was already lower on health because they had that prio. They try to move over here. The Q flash from Eyla not getting much done, and that definitely is something that hurt them. I didn't catch on the initial play as Lyonz did miss his hook, but it kind of buffered him out of the combo there from Eyla. If that had connected on Hena, potentially they could have put enough pressure on Hena to really change the fight. But when that full swing does miss on the initial engage there from Eyla and gets nothing for it, they're just so far down in the overall health. Oddie fully stacks Conqueror. He's just kind of hammering away. Hena was never really threatened, and LYON come out big ahead.
And the geometry of that fight was just so perfect for the champions on LYON, because Varus got to put the piercing arrow through 2 perfectly lined up champions. Zhao even hit the spear on 2, so it's really hard for 100 Thieves to find a good spot after that. As Saint's jumping in, going after Quid, the dredge line from Lyonz, forcing the flash out of the 100 Thieves mid laner. So a really, really nice first 5 minutes here for LYON.
Yeah, and we saw 100 Thieves in a rough spot yesterday as well against Dignitas, I do believe it was, where they got pretty behind early. LYON's playing with fire a little bit here, is taking quite a bit of damage, but the soldiers from Saint are protecting, and Saint has opened up a nice early lead here for himself. Is that one wave up as far as the CS is concerned, and going to be feeling pretty happy about that. Hena has already moved up towards topside. FBI and Eyla are around here. You can see Hena was actually trying to let that plate deny. Because no one was in range. I'm not sure if it did end up dying. Nope. Unfortunately, it's still there. And that's kind of the worst case scenario because then anyone just hits it one time and they're going to be able to cash in. When the plate is really low like that, it's nice to just let it deny to minions if champion isn't around because that gold just goes nowhere.
Exactly. You know that it's eventually going to be taken, so you might as well just have it die in the most graceful way possible. But 10 seconds now until our first set of grubs spawns. There are still summoner spells down from the earlier engagement in the 3v3 in the river. As Lyonz goes for the engage on Eyla, he will immediately disengage that one. Aftershock doing a good job of keeping him mostly protected. Important to note, though, Quid, level 6, just like Saint, but the Taliyah Weaver's wall can really be a huge difference maker in these neutral objective river fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Saint, also worth mentioning, he is playing lethal tempo. Sometimes we see people go, things like Airy or even Comet in these range versus range matchups. He is going for this kind of like high DPS build that if he can really stand and hit on some of these targets. Normally you would see this more against, like full tanks and things like that. There's not a lot of really tanky characters over on the 100 Thieves side, but definitely can get a lot of value if you can have one of these extended fights here. And it is just going to be a trade of grubs for Dragon. Lion up towards that top side. They're going to be really happy about how this early game has gone. They're up 1k and they get 3 grubs. When you are the one who is winning the early game, who is having the pushing lanes, grubs get so much more value.
Yeah. I mean, grubs they're a down payment objective, right? Like, yeah, sure, it's nice to grab the extra EXP for your jungler. It's nice to get the little bit of gold that they reward, but it's really all about how much more value you can get later thanks to the pushing power, and I 100% agree. When you've already got the lead, it just compounds and makes it that much better. As Oddie land roaming around with Lyonz, whenever you're playing one of these junglers that likes to get in there and fight, one of these skirmishers, assassins, whatever, having a CC-heavy support that is just happy to roam with you into the enemy jungle feels so good.
Yep. Absolutely. It is going to be very strong. And we've seen a lot of teams doing that style, who have just been roaming heavily, especially when they are playing these carry-style junglers. Just getting locked up with that jungler, going in, stealing away camps, trying to put that pressure on. And you can see Lion left a lot of vision coverage on this top side. 3 pink wards over in that top side river, as well as 1 ward up in that top lane, a tri-brush. So really a lot of coverage to make sure that there wasn't going to be any sort of sneaky approach to them on the grubs, that there wasn't going to be any interruption on their take there. And Eyla just trying to battle back in that vision game, trying to clear out some of this vision and keep Quid safe here in that mid lane, allow him to try to get this push out and take a reset.
Gold advantages across the board for Lion, except for that top lane matchup, but it's Jayce into a melee champion. You would expect Jayce to be ahead. It's more of a question of how much of a lead can he build, especially with things going south in that bottom lane fight earlier means you're going to have to make up for some of that elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, and we'll see if he can do that. I mean, yesterday in the game, he wasn't kind of really in a wonderful spot, but because he was actually playing so heavily through side lane and his team was kind of surviving as this 4-man core, he ended up getting a really big advantage throughout the game. He was able to build up more and more gold as he picked up those minions, took down towers. He's also going Conqueror, so that is obviously the much better scaling rune than going something like Grasp that we had been seeing, exclusively last split and still sometimes this split. But that is going to mean in the 1v1 he should have a better time later on. And in this kind of matchup, honestly, it is going to be about him getting towards Cleaver very likely, because we are expecting a ton of armor to be stacked here from Licorice, who looks like he's going to be going Iceborne first, which I'm always kind of a fan of. It is one of those items that does allow tanks to have a little bit of damage, a little bit of the ability to kind of fight back, and obviously quite strong Ksante.
Right, yeah, he can proc it so easily. You're constantly spamming the Intofo strikes, makes it so it's pretty much whenever you need it, you've got that proc ready to go. Lion were trying to find an opportunity there. You saw briefly before Saint standing off to the side in fog, but 100 Thieves also dropping a couple pings on that. They knew what was going on, so nothing else happening here just yet as both supports continue to make multiple visits toward the mid lane. Nothing has happened, but they're really anxious to make that change.
Yeah, they are really looking to fight here. I think, honestly, for the Lion side, you don't have to be. I think Lion are happy to just play a slow, steady game, farm it up. You have the Azir, you have this kind of beefy front line there in Licorice. So I do think they're going to be the ones who are less eager to force these fights. But playing against 100 Thieves, you have to be expecting that they're going to be looking for any opportunity to try to make something happen here. And we'll see when they can find it. Eyla is going to be level 6 here. Next time he soaks even just a minion or 2 of experience. So that is going to give him more of an ability to engage. And Quid, of course, has been level 6 for quite some time and is moving down down towards this bottom side, trying to see if there was an opportunity there.
And I think that Eyla hitting level 6 is absolutely massive because it goes back to what we were talking about in the draft. This is the engaged champion for the team. Nobody else here can really start something up unless, you know, someone on Lion is just not paying attention, gets hit by a seismic shove. It's difficult for anyone else to be the one who decides to go. And so Eyla's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders this game, I think, to make sure that he's picking the right moments and finding those big engages.
And you can see the 100 Thieves looking like they're not even going to contest the 6 grubs here. They're just going to try to trade for a little bit of tower damage down on that bottom side. But they did have this kind of late reset, and River was not even in the area. Maybe they're going to try to move over now and like steal 1 grub. Giving over 6 definitely feels rough, but they're so late to the play that it is going to be, you know, if anything, just 1 steal on a grub. And
doesn't even get it, but Oddie land in some danger now as Eyla jumps in to help River, trying to take out the Lion jungler. Sniper's ready to join the fight now too as Oddie has to flash away. A lot of damage though, back onto River, who tries to get away with a Nafiri W, but he's so very low. First kill goes over to Sniper, picking off Lyonz as Saint's the next to fall, and Sniper goes to the skies. 100 Thieves striking back.
100 Thieves just fight their way out of it, man. It just seems to happen every single time. It felt like Lion were there so much earlier and maybe just didn't expect that 100 Thieves were going to contest because 100 Thieves showed up so late to the fight. But 100 Thieves take the fight anyway. They do deny at least that 1 grub. They get some kills. They're getting plates as well. They had Quid down on the bottom side pushing that in. Sniper is able to get some time alone on this tower. And now with a couple kills that he picks up, with the turret plates that he picks up, he's going to open up a pretty big advantage. So, you know, even though it was Lion here a lot earlier, Saint is over at the tower. Hena was not actually rotating, and they didn't have the TP on Licorice, so you know, they kind of committed to this pretty heavily. And yes, it is 100 Thieves showing up late, but they're showing up with that extra man. And Lion ends up being a little bit overcommitted to that play. And you can see the frustration there on the coaching staff's face. A little bit of exasperation, and Golden Glue's pretty happy about it. Jayce now opening up a pretty nice advantage, has that early Eclipse, which is a nightmare for tanks, and is still stacking that tier, so definitely going to be in a good spot.
Eclipse done not just for the Jayce, but for the Nafiri as well. 2 big power spikes if 100 Thieves wants to fight for this next neutral objective here as Drake #2 has spawned. They only got 1 out of 6 of those grubs like we were talking about earlier, but with the first Drake already in their possession, they would love to keep this stack going forward. Quid's job is just to zone Licorice away, make it so Ksante can't really feel comfortable trying to enter towards the battlefield up here, and it looks like he'll have no problems doing that as the Drake is secured by River.
And it is really nice to see these lane assignments here from 100 Thieves because as Licorice, you know, we talked about it, you're going up against Jayce, and then there's a Nafiri jungle, so you stack a bunch of armor, and then all of a sudden it's 13 minutes into the game, you got a bunch of armor, you're feeling pretty tanky, and now you're laning against Quid.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the armor's not doing so hot for you at that point. And Sniper, who, yeah, he has tabbies, but honestly, who cares? You're just building damage, and it doesn't really matter if you're going to be laning against Saint or Licorice. Does have that nice little lane assignment for them, so tabby's going to be completed for Licorice as well. He is still just going to be building heavily towards that armor. I'm a little bit surprised, I will say, that Quid as solo AP is not going a more aggressive build. He is going towards Roa, so he's going to go Roa Archangels, and he's going to be this very kind of tanky build with a lot of health and then that Archangel shield. But it is going to be quite a bit lower damage than if you were just going like Leandries early and these kind of builds, kind of some of the more aggressive builds that you can do. Because generally when you are solo AP, you really want to take the most advantage of that because people aren't going to be stacking MR.
Right.
So you want to be building high damage builds. I guess he just doesn't feel safe doing that. But it is a bit of a surprise to me. And this kind of build is going to punish the lack of MR on Licorice. Not very much.
Licorice doing a good job staying alive up here, but a 3v1 is never great odds. River looking for a little bit more damage there with the Darkened Daggers, jumps forward, but Licorice goes unstoppable with the Pathmaker trying to get away. Weaver's Wall is going to claim it though, and 100 Thieves get kill #3.
And that's going to be the feat of warfare for them, so pretty important kill. Oddie and Hena are pushing up in mid lane, trying to knock this tower down. You can see Saint is shoving down in the bot lane as well, and they're looking for a potential dive here on a Sniper.
Yeah, could be some trouble. Nice CC chain from Lyonz. Not quite enough damage there. It is the ultimate from the Azir, finishing off the kill, guaranteeing they get what they came for, and this should also facilitate Lion taking that first turret, so 1 feet going back their way as well.
Yeah, that's going to be nice. Going to be able to...
I completely trolled because 100 Thieves got the one on the other side of the map right beforehand.
Still, first tower for them. They are going to be able to grab, and they almost got the mid lane tower. So that is going to be nice. Of course, the feats of strength are going to go to 100 Thieves. They have the upgraded boots. Unfortunately, Nautilus got the kill, I guess with Ignite or something. I'm not even sure. I didn't see how he got that last hit onto the Jayce, but that was a shutdown. Would have been really nice to have that gold there over onto Saint, who has his Nashor's Tooth completed, is going to be building in towards the Liandry's. And we'll see where he wants to go from there.
Lots of tiers this game as well. You already talked a little bit about the Seraph's Embrace that Quid is building towards, but, you know, it's going to be a Mana Moon for Jayce. It's going to be another one for the Ezreal. It's going to be another one for the Varus, too. So all of these stacking up, trying to get to that 360 breakpoint for the big power spike, the tier 1 turret in mid, now also going to be claimed by LYON.
Yeah, you can see Hena as well went for the really early Umbral Glaive. A lot of people starting to kind of be more of a fan of this item. Did get some changes. I think it was made a little bit cheaper. There was some sort of buff. I can't remember exactly what it was. A couple of patches ago, and people started experimenting with it on Kai'Sa as well as a few different champions. So he's going to have that early Umbral Glaive. It's a great early power spike, and it's going to help, of course, with the vision game as we go further on.
And I think that Hena's going to feel really good about having the like the high damage lethality Varus build in this game, because everybody on the enemy team is so vulnerable to that damage. I mean, the closest thing to a real tank you're going to have is Eyla, but he's on a support budget. It's not going to be that easy to build up enough resistances to tank those things. And the Rift Herald will now be claimed very shortly after spawn, again, by River on the Nafiri.
Yeah, honestly, this is so reminiscent of the 100 Thieves game from yesterday, you know, where it was Dignitas playing that really strong early game, you know, getting themselves into a good spot, and then 100 Thieves were able to kind of fight back and equalize the game. And from there, they were the ones playing better in those team fights, in those 5v5. So we'll have to see if LYON can kind of flip the script as far as that goes, because it is 100 Thieves now in 1 minute who are going to be having the opportunity to move towards Soul Point. And it is Hextech Soul, which is incredibly powerful here. You definitely do not want to allow them to get this third dragon here at 18 minutes, because you could be setting up for a very early Soul. And that is what LYON is going to have to be ready for.
And especially if 100 Thieves keep getting to objectives first. If they can put themselves in a spot where now LYON has to try to walk up, face check into a situation where you're having to dodge accelerated shock blasts, mystic shots, every single rock that Taliyah is going to throw, well, all of a sudden, now there's not quite as much pressure on Eyla to have these massive engages, because everybody on LYON will just get shot to pieces before it even happens. Oddie land, nice disengage there with the ulti, but he's ready to charge back right into the fight. Eyla here on the front line, locked up by Lyonz. Licorice with the teleport in, and Eyla is in danger. Nice kill going over to Hena, and they're looking for another. FBI on the run. Oddie Land's got to be a little bit careful here. 100 Thieves disengages after losing their support.
Yeah, they thought they actually had a catch here onto Oddie Land, but he has a really nice sidestep on the Shattering Strike, the Q flash from Eyla. And then, because he has no mark on Eyla, he's able to knock him out of the crash down with his ultimate. That was beautiful from Oddie Land. Is able to just completely outplay in that situation and kind of single-handedly wins them the fight, and as a result, wins them the dragon.
Exactly. Sometimes you have a really cool play in League of Legends, but it really doesn't turn into a whole lot. It's just cool points more than anything. That was a really sick play that then completely shuts down the neutral objective stacking that 100 Thieves were playing around.
Yeah, I mean, we can watch this one more time. So the Q flash here, it's kind of going to get sidestepped by Oddie Land. He was walking to the right and then juke back to the left. And then, as I said, because there is no mark, he has not hit Eyla. That means when you do the Crescent Guard, it knocks them back. So he knocks them out of the air of that crash down, and then is able to go back in here for the re-engage. You can see Hena was able to connect his ultimate over onto FBI. FBI is forced to pop that barrier and get right out. And with the jungler going down, and with the support going down, they weren't able to actually continue that play and weren't able to look for the dragon.
Hena could be in a little bit of danger here if he steps too far forward, but he does have Lyonz nearby to protect him. I also like how Oddie stops the initial engage, but then as soon as he sees Seismic Shove underneath him, he knows, all right, I'm going back in one way or the other. I might as well charge.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see Oddie Land was talking about, you know, scrimming against these top 4 teams, and of those top 4 teams, he saw 100 Thieves as the most beatable, the most likely to get a, you know, quote-unquote upset against. It's interesting because some players I talked to didn't even think that 100 Thieves should be ranked in the top 4. They thought that LYON, already based on scrims, should be actually ranked above them. So there is obviously, you know, disagreement based on, you know, how scrims are going going versus different teams. But still, I think pretty much everyone is agreeing that these are the teams that should be in 4th and 5th. That's kind of like where all the pros that I'm talking to are kind of power ranking these two teams. And we'll see if one is going to be able to kind of upset the apple cart, so to speak.
We talk about that hard line drawn in the standings, but these are the two teams that stand closest to the line, that feel like, you know, just 1 foot further in either direction, they could end up being the one to kind of break that trend. As Quid on the Taliyah has both of those items completed that you were talking about now with the Seraph's Embrace fully evolved. Rod of Ages just now ticking over to 5 stacks, so still has a little bit longer to get that one all the way charged up. You can see in Licorice's inventory, it looks like he's kind of going for exactly what you were describing earlier. You go for the armor item, put in the Jack Show second, makes it so you're tanky enough to survive against the Taliyah, and you're still buffing up yourself against everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. You're still building more armor. You're still going to be really tanky against the kind of core 3 damage dealers over on 100 Thieves. And looks like it is going to be smote away there, I think, by Oddie Land. I'm not actually sure who got that, to be honest. They both have a blue buff, so...
It makes it a little bit tougher, right?
But either way, they are going to have that invade. Not too much happening after it. Saint has just been playing heavily through these side lanes, trying to keep his farm really high here, as has Sniper. Sniper almost has the Moramena fully stacked, and we know here comes Quid. We'll see if they can pull off this dive, though. The tower is there.
Ooh, nice move from Saint, trying to stop this, but still a ton of damage coming out from 100 Thieves. Saint very low, but the rocks are not there. Quid is now in danger as Licorice arrives to back up his mid laner. The seismic shove fadeaway will not find anything, and 100 Thieves is sat down. Saint with the outplay.
Yeah, Saint is able to make it happen. It's always risky trying to go for those dives into that summoned Azir tower, and he's able to avoid so much of the damage. The shift forward to avoid the seismic shove. He was also able to dodge out in that accelerated shock blast from Sniper at the end of his combo before he flashed out. And then the teleport coming in from Licorice really does change things. 100 Thieves now almost 2,000 gold behind here with, I would say, a more difficult comp to actually play out. They're in a very tough spot at this point, and Oddie Land is just going to straight up start the Otacon here. Quid has no teleport and is still dead, so they're so late getting out on the map.
He doesn't have a teleport, and he also doesn't have Weaver's Wall. It is a long walk down here to the Otacon.
Top as well. They have no idea.
Now, LYON isn't taking this particularly fast, and one thing we have seen before is teams not respect the Otacon resistance shred enough if they're taking a long time fighting it, having everybody stand inside the pit for a long time. But no, 100 Thieves, they can't get there in time. So not only is it the outplay in the top lane, that outplay then immediately sets them up to take the Otacon. LYON loving this mid game.
Yeah, exactly. And because they got that 3rd dragon, 100 Thieves don't have any sort of a obvious, easy comeback mechanic or kind of win condition that they can actually play towards. So Oddie Land getting that earlier outplay is actually having a really big knock-on effect on the rest of the game. That plus the outplay from Saint in the top side has put LYON in such a good spot in this game. 30 seconds until the next dragon, and LYON definitely feel like they are better set up to fight it. That being said, 2 items are completed for pretty much everyone. So the gold lead, while nice for LYON, is not actually showing itself in a completed 3rd item or anything right now.
Right.
So 100 Thieves, definitely in a deficit, definitely in a tough spot, especially with the Otacon GAs. But if you really execute well on a fight, it's still winnable.
Well, Oddie Land will be first into this bot side river to try to secure this Scuttle Crab.
I think they just give this one, though.
Yeah, I feel, because I mean...
into the GA.
You might not be stacking all of the dragons like you wanted to early on for 100 Thieves, but at least those first couple of dragon takes have put you in a spot where you can comfortably give one over in a situation where it could be very dangerous to play into, like what we're seeing with the Otacon buffs. So, yeah, hands off the wheel. All right, whatever. You guys get this one.
Yep.
Fair
and
play.
they're kind of saying, that's what you're going to earn yourself with the Otacon, is we're not going to actually contest this. We don't want to fight into GAs. Even if we could win a 5v5, you're going to be able to come back on the map and potentially punish afterwards. Baron spawning here in just about a minute, so that is going to be the next big objective. Sniper able to get that tier 2, which is huge, and they're looking for a pick mid. Yeah,
LYON's in some danger here. Has to try to Spider-Man his way out of it. The dredge line connects onto the terrain and gives him enough distance to not die to it, but now very, very low on HP. We'll see if 100 Thieves can really get anything else off the back of that. Without Baron live on the map, it's not like there's much to play for. Like you already said, Sniper got the dub in the top side by taking the tier 2 turret. That feels fine. I feel like 100 Thieves are probably happy to trade the dragon for that tier 2, and then right afterwards would have really been the cherry on top if they could have secured that last little bit of damage on the Nautilus kill.
Yeah, I mean, Sniper here gets so much gold from that tier 2, 700 gold on that isolated tier 2 tower take. It is so valuable when you grab that. FBI trying to defend here. 100 Thieves are collapsing, but this tower is just going to be gone.
Yeah, tower's already gone, but Eyla goes in for the engage. Licorice here on the front line, very, very low as Sniper is ready to go into the skies. Licorice caught inside the Weaver's wall, but Quid is already down. The first false life is going to be procced as Licorice continues trying to disengage. But he will be shut down by River as the Otacon buff expires right at the worst possible time. Now Oddie, Lyonz, and Saint all have to try to get away. FBI's low HP, but the rest of the Thieves are ready to chase. River continues firing forward as it looks like there is going to be an escape for Oddie Land, but no way home for Lyonz. The Hex Gates getting two of the Lion players out of danger as Saint's ready to re-engage, now looking for Eyla and FBI. He doesn't have the range, he doesn't have the power, and FBI's just laughing at him.
They're able to get a couple kills there. Quid does go down. They're pretty lucky, honestly, that that first Otacon False Life had not actually expired because there was about a second left or so when they got that first initial kill. So Lion do force down the tier 2, but good engage here comes in from Eyla. As Quid was flying over the wall with the Weaver's Wall, though, Lyonz actually caught him with that Nautilus ultimate, so he gets locked up, he gets burst down there. And this False Life was so close to expiring. You can see Licorice died right after, but did not have the GA.
Like 2 seconds.
If they waited, 1 second, even maybe 2 seconds at most, they could have even gotten that extra kill and not had the False Life proc. 100 Thieves, though, of course, trying to chase for more. They really want to grab some extra kills here. Had they killed Oddie Land, there was an angle to try to do Baron right there, so that would have been the big reward they were looking for, but still can be quite happy about it.
And I really like the heads-up move there from Oddie Land, recognizing, hey, this is super dangerous if I die, just flashing over the wall to grab the Hex Gate before they can interrupt him to make his exit. Lyonz still up 1,500 gold, but 100 Thieves at least getting a bit of a punish there for that tier 2 turret.
It is interesting, these last 2 games from 100 Thieves, and maybe it's just a symptom of them falling behind early, but they've been much slower, much more patient. Not the 100 Thieves that I think of from last split, where they were the bloodiest team in the world, the highest combined kills and deaths in their games. They're constantly fighting non-stop, and they're trying to be a little bit slower, a little bit more composed this time around, so it is kind of interesting to see. You can also note that Sniper did not elect to go for the Black Cleaver because River was the one who's going to be able to grab that up and shred a lot of the armor for the team, but it is Last Whisper that is in inventory here for Sniper, so he is just building towards that third item still. And Licorice, surprisingly, is going towards more MR. I do find that pretty surprising because it is so much physical damage over on the other side. I thought the Jack Show would be the only MR he'd actually purchase, as River's going to look.
Yeah, River's going in for the full engage, but a nice stop on it there thanks to the Emperor's Divide. Saint gets away, but you can see, even with Nafiri just hitting him with the ulti and a little bit of follow-up damage, he loses 40%. If he mistimes his ult there or misplaces it, he's pretty dead.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a trade of ultimates. You use the Hound's Pursuit, you get out the Azir ult, so it is that trade 1-for-1. You can see Saint now does have the Seekers ready to go, as well as the components, of course, are working towards that Zhonya's, but he'll be able to have the Seekers one fight and then very likely complete the Zhonya's and have a Zhonya's for that next one. So he's going to be a pretty difficult target. And then you're looking over at Zhao. Well, he's not going to be the one you want to kill. Licorice is tough to get through. It starts feeling like it pretty much can only be Hena, and that's tough when you have to fight through all of this CC that Lion have.
And especially because Hena has already completed his third item too, it's Edge of Night. The extra spell shield now has to be procced by something, and it's Lethality Varus. He's comfortable standing very far back, firing off the piercing arrows, makes it much more difficult to find how you want to be able to pop that spell shield, kind of just hoping for an accelerated shock blast, maybe the true shot barrage from a long way away before the team fight. But yeah, 2-man attempt. Azir can do Baron very, very quickly. Audie Land will be happy to just tank it up for now, but 100 Thieves sniffs it out, and that immediately forces Lion back.
It's the advantage of having a dog on your team. Bro.
Somewhere out there, Freak's ears just perked up. That was...
I mean, it worked, dude. You've been laughing for a minute. There you go. I understand.
All right. Well, Quid rides in on the Weaver's Wall to block the possible escape route here for Lion as they're trying to get themselves back to a decent position. Chains of Corruption fly out from Hena, but they don't find a target. 100 Thieves with control over the bot side river as Oddie Land going forward there. The wind becomes lightning, but FBI disengaging with enough distance there thanks to the arcane shift as River is just doing the dragon the entire time. They are forcing Lion to need to step forward. Saint and Oddie Land suffering from some of this poke here. here. They know that they need to go in before they absorb too much more.
Eyla is on the side, and he could look for a really good engage. He's trying to deny any potential hard commit from Lion. If they hard commit to this fight, they could get pinched.
Okay, Oddie jumps over the wall, ready to go for the smite fight, but it's going to be secured by Rivers Nafiri instead. Now the 1v1 back in the Dragon Pit is not going the way of the Zhao, as Lyonz has to try to get away, but a nice seismic shove seals his fate. Now the Nafiri ready to go in once again as the True Shot Barrage flies through and nearly kills off Oddie Land. A beautiful shot coming out from Sniper to seal the deal, but River may have gone too far. He jumps back in with the ultimate reset, but he gets himself away because the W is a very balanced ability.
That is actually crazy. He dives in 1v3 under the tier 2 tower with the tier 1 tower still alive, gets his Azir ulted, and then just gets out no problem. That is nuts. River definitely using that character's kit to the maximum, and now they're going to be able to get a Baron off the back of that as well. River actually played that whole sequence so incredibly well.
Yeah.
Was very, very aggressive, always being able to bait abilities, being able to shred people, hitting multiple Qs, and just bouncing in and out of that fight expertly.
Even starting it off before the fight ever really even happened, he wins the 50-50, like full fair smite fight in the pit, makes it so then Oddie Land has to run all the way away because Zhao is not winning the 1v1 against the Nafiri. It just started off really well for 100 Thieves. Let's take another look at how it happened.
Yeah, exactly. So Oddie Land does tag the Dragon. He gets in the pit, as you say. Fair fight, down to 1600. Insta-kills it from 1693. So very difficult to actually outsmite that. And it's going to be able to actually finish it off. Then they decide, okay, we're going to go for this. The flip gets hit over the wall from Quid, and then River just flashes in, goes to the Hound's pursuit, and then just hops backwards as Licorice tries to re-engage on him. But he's always staying in range, just continue tagging them with those Qs. And then right here, 1v3 under the tower, but the W is available, and then just hops back over the wall, hits a multi-man Q on them as they're chasing after him. To add insult to injury there. And I was doing the same thing. I was looking at Nafiri and saying, what is that? Has the Shojin fully stacked the whole time as well. And 100 Thieves just does it again. They just seem to be able to fight their way out of these situations. Comps be damned, situations be damned, gold leads be damned. 100 Thieves are going to fight, and they're going to fight well.
Well, damn. It's looking really good for them now as Licorice is not having a good time trying to deal with this hot dog as 100 Thieves are pushing towards the tier 2 turret, standing here still in the bottom side, but it doesn't have a whole lot of HP to work with. One more Baroned up wave, and they might be able to force it down. Also, shout-outs again to Sniper for securing that accelerated shock blast at the very back into the fight in that previous one. Guarantees there's no way for the enemy team to try to contest the Baron.
He got his one.
Sets him up. That's, hey, he's a sniper. He sniped. That was good.
There you go.
All right, mid lane tier 2 turret pops. 100 Thieves going to pick that one up, and then immediately Quid throws out the Weaver's Wall. Saint wants to go for the engage on FBI, but he doesn't have enough damage, and FBI escapes. Saint immediately forced back down into the dirt, and 100 Thieves now with nobody dead on their own side, with Saint out of the picture for 50 seconds, and even once he revives, he's got no ult and no flash. 100 Thieves can smell the blood in the water.
Yeah, and no Zhonya's as well. That is really tough. He tried to catch him by Eing forward and then flash ulting to react to that Arcane Shift, but he used both the Arcane Shift and the flash to create even more space. Ezreal's one of the champions that it's so tough to actually do that to because they have the secondary dash to avoid your follow-up flash, so FBI able to create that space, stays alive here, and 100 Thieves are pushing. They are low in health, but they get the kill.
Lyonz is already down. A nice seismic shove from Quid. Didn't even need any setup, and now the second shove is going to force Licorice to try to flash away. River continues jumping forward, and Lion is scrambling just to stay alive. 100 Thieves force their way into the bottom lane of the base. They take the full inhib. They don't lose a single man, and they get out.
Yep, they're going to be able to get out, and now, because of that last Dragon, they are on Soul Point. 1 minute until that Hextech Soul is available for them, and I think that is going to be where they are focused here. Looking towards that 4th Dragon will be very difficult to deal with if they are going to be able to grab that Hextech Soul. You can see it's going to be tough. I mean, Saint's going to have no flash. There's going to be no flash on FBI, but Ezreal's just such a safe character inherently that it's really tough to actually punish that, and I do think the flash for Saint is more valuable as kind of that X factor. We'll see if they can actually get on the map and kind of retake some vision because it has really been tough, and I just think River has been playing so incredibly well in these fights. He's been putting on so much pressure, You know, and the fact that he's not just playing it like hesitantly, he's not playing far back, he's diving in and forcing him to spend spells on them and then getting the maximum value out of that W to actually immune these spells, then hops back out. You know, he's constantly drawing that pressure. And look at Eyla on the flank. Yeah,
Ayla's ready because the True Shot Barrage already popped the Edge of Night off of Hena. Now the Rell's ready to immediately jump in with a Magnet Storm, and there goes River straight after the lethality Varus. Hena just fighting to try to stay alive, but Quid has already gone on a killing spree. Sniper versus Oddie land off on the side, and Sniper dies. Lion trying to get FBI now, but the damage is just too much. A double kill back over to Quid, and everybody on Lion except Oddie Land is staring at a black and white screen. 100 Thieves on the victory march.
100 Thieves finally able to get that decisive team fight win. They find the flank on Hena, and that is going to be that.
There we go. That mid lane turret is already gone. The inhibitor falls right after. They've got the super minions coming up through the bottom lane. There is no way for Oddie Land to do anything about this. Tries to maybe grab one little bit of a cheeky damage there in the river, but not enough. The ace for Quid's Taliyah. 100 Thieves will continue the reign of terror of the top 4 teams. 11-0 now. Lion could not find their way to get this one done. 14-7. 100 Thieves get the dub.
Back-to-back days for 100 Thieves. They do get behind early, but they're able to make it happen with the team fighting here. At the end of the day, they close this one out 35 minutes, but definitely some hope in that one for Lion. They played the early game well, but it's just the 5v5, how 100 Thieves are so on the same page. Even when one fight goes badly for them early, they never seem to get shook by that whatsoever. They just go right back to it. They're saying, if this is the way we're supposed to play, this is the way we're going to play. Win, lose, or draw, you just keep going back to those team fights, and they're able to make it work time and time again.
Good job for 100 Thieves, yet again racking up the dub. Reminder, LTA North Twitch subs are back. Join the community for exclusive content, including the League of Legends in-game emote, Tell Me Everything, for paid and gifted subs. Plus, get access to all of our exclusive LTA North Twitch emotes like Gigaflowers. That one's mine. You have the nodding one, right?
It is very cursed.
Yes, that's the point. That's what's fun. All right, but now we've got our first game of the day wrapped up. We're joining Kobe and Sniper.